Hi everyone. What happened in Sweden last night? What happened in Sweden last night? Here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Jens Lekman album, Life Will See You Now. This is the fourth full-length album from Swedish singer-songwriter Jens Lekman. 5 years since his last record, I Know What Love Isn't. It's been a while since we've heard a studio effort from this guy, and it kind of sounds like it because Lekman has come through with an almost full reinvention of his sound, because this is really his pop album. This is his poppiest album so far. This is, if any record of his was going to be some chart topper, I don't think that's going to happen. but if there was, this would be it. Although that's not to say that pop hasn't been an influence on his previous albums. It certainly has. But this is the most direct and simplified and funky his music has ever sounded. I guess he was sort of trending in this direction with at least a handful of songs on his last album sounding a bit more simplified, a bit peppier, very hooky. But this time, on this album, Jens is backing his songs with one dance beat after another, while still kind of bringing that whimsical chamber pop instrumentation. At first, when I was listening to this thing, I thought to myself, wow, this is what it would sound like if Belle and Sebastian went down to the disco. And then I remembered that that's what Belle and Sebastian did with their last album. I like this new Lekman album better. But that's not to say that this album perfects what Belle and Sebastian tried to do on their last album either. Jens is playing with a lot of different genres on this album. I think effectively he gets them to meld pretty well, but I don't know if he so much plays to the strengths of every musical style that he's toying with here. I think the direct musical approach and the loud, danceable rhythms all over this album kind of take away from the subtlety and the intimacy of Lekman's music. Also kind of takes away from the impact of his lyrics, which are usually pretty thoughtful, wordy, have some underlying humor to them, or maybe some kind of personal anguish or heartbreak. Also, I think a lot of the sequence beats on this thing, some of which have a kind of digital electronic tone to them, clash in a somewhat ugly way with the very organic, very acoustic instrumentation, the guitars, the pianos, the strings. And on the flip side, Jens doesn't exactly have the voice to really sell a pop song. I like his singing, but his voice is super polite, very quaint, and the result is a lot of these songs being somewhat breezy, lacking in punch or urgency, memorability. Sometimes the lyrics can be pretty sticky, can be pretty memorable or funny, like on HOTWIRE, the Ferris wheel, which I think has one of the more interesting stories and narratives on the entire album. Or the song Wedding in I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, which I think has one of the smartest choruses on any of his albums, where he sort of depicts 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, all kind of watching each other in succession and learning from one another's mostly bad behaviors, or kind of seeing what's coming next for them down the line in the future. I also like the hand percussion on this track. It has a bit of an island funk to it that I think is really sharp. The song How We Met, the long version, is also very self-aware and witty too. But then we have cuts like Our First Fight, which dips directly into the mundane. I don't dig the lyrics of this track at all. And What's the Perfume You're Wearing is sickeningly sweet. And then the opening track, To Know Your Mission, I don't know if I'm missing out on some tongue-in-cheek humor here or some irony, but on this track, Jens, whether it be himself or maybe through a character, laments about not knowing or understanding his purpose in the world or vying for a purpose in the world. He says that he wants to be an ear in a world of mouths. He wants to be a social worker so he can hear other people's stories, or be a shrink even though he doesn't have the grades. And I don't know, that just kind of struck me as a really selfish reason to go into those fields where primarily your focus should be to help other people, not hear their stories. And these are the tracks that really, for either good or bad, stuck out to me. Much of the rest of the album just didn't really leave that strong of an impression on me. It was certainly pleasant to have on in the background, but again, I feel like those dance beats left a lot of the milder tracks instrumentally feeling a little stiff, especially on a song like Postcard 17, whose dance beat kind of clashes with the very sad vibe of the instrumentation. You know, it just seems like the 2 or 3 different worlds of music he's bringing together on some of these tracks. Occasionally they enhance each other, a lot of the time they work against each other, and here and there they're canceling each other out. I think the mission Jens set out on this record was certainly an admirable one, but the results at best are pretty mixed. Even if Evening Prayer is a tune. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this album. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And just leave an angry comment in the comments if you're angry. All sorts of other videos next to my head. Links as well. Official website. Subscribe to the channel. Jens Lekman. Life will see you now forever.